For 2 years, it was the coronavirus pandemic. Then it was Russian war in Ukraine. Throughout it all, the peril of climate change, poverty, and inequality have steadily affected the convening of world leaders at the UN General Assembly. 2023's year's general debate themed Rebuilding Trust and Reigniting Global Solidarity, Accelerating Action on 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals towards peace, prosperity, progress, and sustainability for all. No one was disappointed with the speech by President Bola Tinubu at the just concluded UNGA. More importantly, it was one speech that Africans should not only be proud of, but also work hard to make it happen. President Tinubu suggested to other nations and private sector actors to see Africa's development as a priority, not just for Africa, but in their own interests as well. Let's get talking now. Director, co-founder, BudgIT, Mr. Oluseun Onigbinde joins me from the United States of America. Seun, thank you so much. I think it's good morning over there.
Yeah, it's morning over here. So I know it's afternoon in Nigeria. It's a pleasure being here today.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. I want to start first with this development of President Tinubu launching the National Talent Export Program to wrap up UNGA. I saw the Minister of Trade and Investment there, and also Digital Technology. They're talking about how this will help create jobs. In your understanding, what do you make of that outing, and what message did you see President Tinubu dropping over there at the United Nations General Assembly?
Thank you very much. I think it was a fairly decent outing for him. He had a speech, a good speech. That was fit for that environment at the UN General Assembly grounds, and he spoke clearly about the need for the renewed form of partnership between developed countries and Africa. He also spoke every day about solidarity on the African front. So I think, I mean, if you look at it from a diplomatic or from a foreign policy perspective, that was a very, very good speech to put in play at that kind of gathering. I mean, when we bring it internally, we know that there are bigger issues, much more than the kind of partnership we have between the West and our Nigeria, our African countries. I think for our environment, it was great. And if you also look at more of the conversations there, all the ministers were geared around investment and also being able to expand exports. So there were meetings with oil majors, there were meetings with leading tech companies, and also you had also the launch of the outsourcing, the talent outsourcing program, or the talent export program, as they call it, which is also a renewed form of thinking that we also can build a proper pipeline on talent export. At the end of the day, we know that this would expand diaspora returns into the countries and also be able to increase remittances in the long run. It was fair. I mean, a lot of also you had this conversation between the stock exchange and the tech industry, which the Minister of Communications and Innovation and Digital Economy attended, Boson Tijani. I also was part of that session. It was about how startup deals could also lead to exit. So that was also a very great conversation. All in all, I feel Nigeria used the opportunity to sell itself to the world. I know the answers aren't going to be quick, but the reality is that the president and his entire team went there to talk more about how Nigeria can be an investment case.
Attracting investments and signing all of these deals sometimes, as some say, it's just the start of it. There are other things that need to be done to make these investors actualize all of these plans, putting pen to paper, being able to repatriate their funds, ease of doing business, follow-ups on all of this. They know that, yes, security, your country is secure, I can bring in my money. So what sort of conversations do you think should follow this meeting? In India, $14 billion was promised after President Tinubu met with Nigerians there and also foreigners that do business here. But making this a reality matters a lot to me, and I'm sure to all Nigerians. What do you make of this, and what do you think needs to be done?
I think it's just to ease the environment. What does private sector want? Private sector wants an environment that supports the growth of their business. and also allows them to exit at any point in time. These are FDI. These are not, even though the promises are made, these are not like something that you flip a switch. You're still going to take a time for some of these investments, some of these promises that are crystallized. So I would still say 6 months to 1 year window. A $10 to $15 billion investment is it's not a small investment in any component of the world. So I believe that this is where the trade ministry has to step up and make sure that they continuously engage and follow up with these institutions, these private sector organizations that are committed to investing in Nigeria. Also figure out how to use the opportunity for them in terms of regulatory issues, in terms of talent, access to talent, in terms of access to capital, in terms of the FX market, and protection, and all of that has to happen. And I think this is what the ministry should be chasing. When the president will be committed to a whole lot of things, it's required of the people who he has appointed to step up and do their proper job. And that's just about, if I've made all the promises and we have made all these commitments, make it happen. The reality is that global investment flows have stagnated in recent times. And we know this because of the global macroeconomic dynamics that we are facing as a world. I mean, the US is a significant contributor to that. We know that the interest rates at the Fed, US Fed interest rates around 5%. So definitely the incentive is for private investors and funds to just sit in the US, which is actually a risk-free asset in some sort of way. The whole challenge is that that's taking up capital away from developing economy. So the best place to look at, in my own view, is to look into the East, look more into what can China offer you, what can India offer you, because it looks like for private sector investment in the West, it looks like there's a bit of trouble in that environment right now. I'm also feeling that our energy sector is also something that was highly spoken at the UN General Assembly. Climate action, climate change, green innovation, these are very huge topics in there. And I feel that Nigeria, President Tinubu spoke about this in his speech, but Nigeria also has to be at the forefront. Not just talk about it, we have to be at the forefront of climate action and green innovation in the continent. Countries like Kenya, Ghana has taken a huge step forward. We have to show them that we have the numbers, we have the economics, and we have the market on our side as Nigeria. So I think those are the things I see from that environment that it feels exciting, and I believe that the president and his team would have their work cut out for them.
Let's talk about issues surrounding poverty and humanitarian aid. You know, this is very important. Globally, everyone is facing that. Yeah, you know, so I'm thinking that what deliberate efforts do you expect from member countries, of course, Nigeria and other countries, to address this properly? Now, we hear monies from the United Nations, from World Bank, from AFDB to support agriculture, to support this, to support that. But now I'm talking about, how do you think we can adequately implement these strategies, these initiatives, that it will really trickle down to those that will get these monies and do the needful? We see what happened with Anchor Borrowers scheme, and the level of payment not commendable at all. And we can go on and on with other schemes as such. So what are you thinking around Shehu that will really make people have that feel that, yes, government is working for me?
You're right. I mean, what can we do differently? And I know that a lot of conversations on the humanitarian corridor were also there, especially, I mean, for the Northeast zone. The Northwest also has a huge challenge in recent times. I mean, if you look at Nigeria specifically, poverty is a big issue. I believe that the current president, there's still there's a waiting period. There's a kind of understanding. I mean, for the previous president, I mean, when he came in 2015, the big conversation was corruption. And I think a lot of funders, a lot of multilateral partners, you know, they jumped on that wagon. And maybe unfortunately, they could not find the corruption at the end of the day. For this new government, it seems the big issue or the problem now is the economy. And the kind of orientation of the current government is that if we set the fundamentals right, if the macroeconomics are good, it will be, at least will ease the environment in some sort of way. Even though unfortunately things are not in the right perspective right now. I believe that when we enter into this agreement, we have to be much more clearer. I am of the opinion that most multilateral agencies have their own agenda. They have their own perspective. Some of them are they're doing studies. They're doing analysis. They're reviewing our challenges. So we have to be clear. We have to be definite. We have to be concise about what exactly we want. Not just take the money, but also be very clear about measurement, impact measurement. Because we know these things. I'm always a big vehicle that if you're going to give some of this money, use a private sector vehicle to do it. If you keep doing this through government channels, the orientation that will carry on continuously is that this is free for all money. This is money without consequences. We saw that without cross-border fund. We saw that with the COVID-19 relief program that was anchored by the CBN. And all of that means that if you look at the CBN is carrying over 700 billion naira, of consumer credit that's been provided in different interventions that have not been properly retired. So it's something that has to change. And if anything is going to change in that, it just means clearly that we have to channel those funding through the private sector vehicles and be very much more clear. So people have consequences about some of this things. But for multilateral donor funding, a lot of them is going to looking at the after effects of this whole current security crisis that we have. A lot of transparency, a lot of accountability, and a lot of cost management. Because sometimes you are trying to give somebody 10 naira, and the cost of giving 10 naira is 7 naira, is 9 naira. It doesn't just make sense. So that's to be interrogation from the Nigerian government about the cost of delivery of some of these services, so that it can be further optimized as it's meant to be. I think that's why my own position on that.
Interesting stuff. Now, I want to ask you, in President's speech, we saw stuff around direct investment in critical industries. Critical is the word I'm looking at here now, that will help improve exports and other things. Now, what sectors, what is running through your mind with regards to sectors that should be focused on if we are to, I'm looking at job creation now. What sectors can we really tap into to begin to get the positives of all of these agreements and MOUs and all that we've signed?
Yeah, thanks so much. And if you look at this, it's very easy to know these sectors are critical. All you need to do is to dimension our GDP and dimension our export dynamics. If you dimension GDP, the number one there is agriculture. If there's any other place we need to rapid investment, and it's not the back-breaking subsistence agriculture we want to do. It has to be at scale. It has to be heavily mechanized. We're going to be able to capture value from it. We can continue with the one we're doing. People do with villages. We all know that this is not changing dynamics. We know that one of the poorest neighborhoods, NBS report shows this, that one of the poorest households are those who are involved in farming and also have a low level of education. So it's very clear that if we're going to have to take agriculture on, we have to do it at scale, and we have to do it in a very mechanized way. To mining, I'm happy that there's a renewed conversation around mining. The world is going through a transition in terms of energy. We're talking about green energy, energy transition, hydrogen, lithium, zinc, all of that. We have access to most of these things, and we should also optimize them for this environment. The whole idea of hearing illegal mining all around the country and people capturing value beyond and they're not remitting effectively, all of that has to change significantly. Limestone and different things we're taking, they're not capturing effect. So I feel a critical sector that needs significant investment is mining. Thirdly is our technology and creative sector, which is one of the largest components of the service index of the GDP. We have to be able to figure out a way to get investment in the technology sector so that we can also wrap up venture investment and all of that. We're able to do those three things. And we now add gas because, there's a lot of geopolitics around energy at this point with the Russia-Ukraine war. And unfortunately, we are not even capturing value as we should. We know that oil is not in the top priority list of investors across the world, especially except you're going to look for investment in the East, maybe like China or India. But if you're going to look at international index funding, you're likely not going to get funding from there. So the advice is that if we want to look at any way to raise investment in that hydrocarbon sector, is gas. Transition opportunity that can happen with gas, we need to capture it effectively. And if we do all of that, then we go to industrial production, which is manufacturing. Believe me, if we want to put people to jobs at scale, there are two places to get that done. Is to look at the underbelly of the manufacturing sector, which is the vocational part of the manufacturing sector. All of that is we have lost, that has been eroded over the years. So if we are going to be able to build back jobs, it's going to likely be in agriculture, which we also have to be very conservative about. We are going to get scale, we're going to do a lot of mechanization and industrial manufacturing. There's no other, the tech will do is a bit of changes for us, high quality job, middle class income jobs, but it will not grant us the scale that we want. Gas will also help us, maybe on our balance of payment, our FX, but it's not like the jobs are going to be at the staggering level. But if we want to change these dynamics, we have to just be producing. And that means manufacturing and agriculture has happened significantly.
So Amos, thank you so much for your time. It's always interesting having you join the program, and we appreciate your contributions. Seun is the director and co-founder with BudgIT. Thank you so much, and do have a great week.
It's a pleasure, Tolu. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right, then. Well.